UN Special Envoy says that parties have confirmed commitment to uphold to the truce and flights from Sana'a airport to resume soon. In violation of the United Nations truce, Houthi militia continues to block the main roads in Al-Dala Governorate. Torrential rains hit Ma'rib and exacerbate the suffering of displaced people in the city. Welcome to Yemen Today TV. This is the English news with me, Rana Swaylam. The UN Special Envoy Hans Grunberg has announced today that the parties of the conflict affirmed their commitment to uphold the truce. Grunberg added that the UN is working to identify solutions and resume flights from Sana'a airport. He also called on parties to work constructively and in good faith to prioritize the interests of Yemeni civilians. The U.S. envoy to Yemen, Tim Lunderking, said that President Biden asked his administration to reconsider Houthis' designation to terrorist list. Lunderking added that the Houthi militia carried out about 400 cross-border attacks last year, and they continue to detain 13 employees of the U.S. Embassy in Yemen. He further explained that adding Houthis to terrorist list was only intended to allow aid to reach Yemenis. The Yemeni embassy in Poland discussed Poland's aid to Yemen in obtaining wheat after the conflict in Ukraine. This discussion was held with the director of the Middle East and North Africa. As the Russian-Ukrainian war had a direct impact on Yemen, it further caused a severe shortage of wheat, as Yemen imports were 39.1% from Ukraine alone and 21% from Russia. King Salman hosted chairman of Presidential Leadership Council and his deputies in Jeddah. King Salman affirmed the kingdom's eagerness and support for the Yemeni Presidential Leadership Council. He further wished them success in order to achieve security and stability in Yemen. Despite the announced truce, which states clearly free movement of people and goods among cities, Houthi militia continues to block main roads in Al-Dala and other areas. The following report has more details.
Everything has become expected in the Houthi militia's existence in many areas in the country. Now the time it takes for travelers to go from Maris district in Qataba to Damt city is more than 12 hours and at a large financial cost per passenger, after it took only a quarter of an hour through Lahj and Al-Bayda. The same situation applies to Al-Qataba Al-Fakhr-Ib road, after the Houthi militia continued to cut off the main roads in Al-Dala Sana'a and Al-Dala Ib. And some families have resorted to crossing highways and dangerous main roads.
We used to travel to Ib in an hour. Now it takes us a whole day to arrive to Ib, and the fare is doubled. We were paying 100,000 riyal, but now it is increased to 200,000 riyals. That is too much. We assure you that Al-Fakhr-Ib road was cut off, and we are the most affected people by this.
The continuation of the blocking of the main roads Al-Dala Sana'a and Al-Dala Ib has exacerbated the suffering of citizens and those who wish to visit their relatives, especially on occasions such as holidays and others. Cutting off the roads also caused a rise in food prices and various needs of life.
We assure to the whole world that the Houthi militia is behind cutting off the roads and exploding bridges. We and all the Yemeni citizens are welcoming the truce, and they are the ones who break it through these violations. The Houthi militias are planting mines and exploding trucks on the road, and they are causing several attacks on the official lines.
A source in the joint forces in Al-Dala front confirmed that the Houthi militias are the ones who caused the suffering of citizens through their continued planting of mines and explosive devices, as well as the refusal to repair the bridges and roads that they have detonated in the governorates.
Human Rights Committee announced Houthi militia's responsibility for hundreds of violations during April. It indicated that it had documented 18 casualties in the explosion of mines and explosive devices left by the Houthi militia. It also noted it had monitored dozens of killings committed by the militia through bombing of residential neighborhoods in several governorates. Government forces thwarted Houthi infiltration attempts in Ma'rib Governorate. Field sources indicated the Houthi militia continued to target government and tribal sites on Ma'rib fronts. The militia continued to send human reinforcements and equipment to the fronts of the governorate. Heavy torrential rains have hit Ma'rib governorate lately. As the city has the largest displacement camps, the rain damaged most of those camps, deepening the suffering of the displaced. The following report has more details.
As summer looms near, torrential rains descend heavily upon the shelterless families of Ma'rib, pelting their flimsy tents with cold rain. The displaced people in Ma'rib's camps find no refuge from the weather.
It's
the heaviest rain I have ever seen in my life. Rain, thunder and lightning. It has swept everything in its path. It destroyed our tent totally.
Heavy rains, tailed by a sweeping cyclone, hit Ruwaik and Abu Janb camps, east of the city of Ma'rib. They have damaged tents, flooded mattresses and blankets, and swept away the properties of the displaced. Belongings, foodstuffs, and even simple household utensils were affected.
Heavy rain with strong winds have devastated the camp entirely. We are helpless. We have nobody to complain to but God.
The displaced people in Ruwaik and Abu Janb camps stand among the remnants of the tents that were swept away by torrential rains. They await any incoming aid that might ease the catastrophe that befell them, save them and their children from sleeping in the open, and provide them with food and shelter. However, their anticipation has yielded little result, and no assistance has reached the hundreds of families currently sleeping in the open desert.
كل المنظمات ندعو الوحدة التنفيذية ندعو ممثلي ندعو رجال الخير.
We call upon relief organizations to supply the displaced people with foodstuffs as they've been damaged by the torrential rains that flooded their residential camps. These people are now living without shelter or food.
Displaced people continue to struggle come summer, winter, fall, or spring, the unceasing tragedies that befall them immune to the changing seasons. Humanitarian organizations remain completely absent from most of the camps, as displaced people struggle to secure even the most basic of life necessities.
As the fighting continues, new waves of displacement head to Ma'rib, seeking shelter and refuge. Things become even harder with the announcement of international aid agencies that they would suspend their work in Yemen because of tough funding crisis. The following report has more details.
War and displacement stories follow the lives of Yemenis. Not a day passed without the governorate of Ma'rib receiving new IDPs who were from areas witnessing military confrontations or from governorates controlled by the Houthi militia. This doubles the burden more on the city in providing the life requirements for the displaced, in light of the occasional relief interventions by relief organizations. The Executive Unit for Displaced People in Ma'rib Governorate confirmed the displacement of more than 19,600 families, equivalent to around 116,500 people during the past year. The total number has reached more than 2.2 million displaced, distributed in 195 camps in the Governorate since 2015.
في التقرير على الإحصائيات في محافظة مأرب العدد وصل إلى 3 مليون.
According to statistics, the population in Ma'rib Governorate reached 3,118,000, of which 2,212,000 displaced people. The number increased more than last year. The report also stated the efforts done by the international and local organization and the rule during the hard time. However, all these efforts are not enough to cover the needs of the displaced, as it's dire and continuous, especially in light of the lack of humanitarian funding provided to Yemen. It takes a lot to cover the needs of people in order to keep them alive.
The increase in the number of displaced people and the opening of new camps in Ma'rib, with the continuation of the war and the reduction of relief interventions by relief organizations, is what made the displaced struggle to survive, and as a result, the suffering of the displaced inside the camps increases. There is no food or medicine for the displaced, in addition to the rupture of many tents that have been eroded by the heat of the sun and is no longer usable.
The situation of the camp is extremely terrible. The tents are damaged for more than a year and a half. No one is doing anything about it, not even the organizations. There is no electricity here. They asked displaced people for 6 million riyals. We cannot afford food and water. How are we supposed to pay this money? The organization are in complete absence. They don't pay any attention to the camp's situation.
Suffering in the displacement camps is increasing in Ma'rib day by day, and the lives of Yemenis are subjected to a war that operates near their camps and is about to destroy them completely.
Coming next. Al Saleh Charity Foundation continues to distribute cash assistance aid for displaced people in Tehama.
احنا نزحنا للمخيم ذا قدام 3 سنوات ونزحنا من الحرب وقعت بيننا عندنا في القرية اشتباكات عنيفة. الأمان مش أمان الحرب، الأمان إنك معك دور في بيتك، معك مصروف، تكون مأمن نفسك داخل بيتك أنت وعيالك. القوة خلانا نفكر كثير، ما يكون البر موجود وكل شيء موجود، ترقد وأنت آمن مرتاح، ما يكون ما فيش، من ترقد؟
Welcome back. The family of former Houthi prisoner Simon Luke called for UK inquiry over his detention for 5 years. One of his family members said that he has been through torturing for 5 years without any accusation against him. The Parliamentary Foreign Affairs Committee has begun an inquiry into Houthis' detention against civilians. Omaha Head of Mission Major General Michael Berry concluded a visit to Saudi Arabia and Jordan. During the visit, Berry discussed Hudayda's significance in the UN Special Envoy's broader peace efforts. He also held bilateral discussions with representatives of the UN Security Council members. Al Saleh Charity Foundation has launched its humanitarian project in the Tehama coast. The project provides cash assistance to displaced and needy people in these areas. The following report has more details.
As part of its humanitarian endeavors and efforts that have extended its support to most of the Yemeni governorates, Al Saleh Social Foundation for Development is implementing a project to aid the displaced people in Tehama area in Hais district, south of Hudaydah governorate. The financial humanitarian aid has targeted the displaced and needy residents of the city and other liberated rural villages of the same district, who are among the poorest families in the area, in which they even lack sources of income.
At a time when people are in desperate need, Al Saleh Foundation has conducted this initiative to help people. And of course, it was this charitable leader who supported people in need.
We thank Al Saleh Foundation for its aid, which helped us a lot at the end of this holy month, and we wish it can be repeated again.
The financial aid project for the displaced also aimed to target the largest segment of poor people, especially with the advent of the Blessed Feast, as a humanitarian gesture towards them and to alleviate their suffering.
This gift came at a suitable time as we are suffering here for years. The foundation has organized the procedures so well, in which we felt everything was facilitated, and we wish God will award Saleh with mercy.
Unremitting humanitarian efforts were made in the process of preparing the lists of the targeted people, and this experience is considered a step in the humanitarian path and a qualitative leap in organizing aid and distributing process. A charitable gesture that Al Saleh Foundation has been accustomed to since its inception. And this gesture comes today in light of the deteriorating conditions and hard costs of living that the country has been experiencing since the outbreak of war, which doubled the suffering of the homeland and the Yemeni citizen.
Masan project dismantled 350 mines from roads and areas in Ain Shabwa district. Brigadier General Al-Aqili confirmed the presence of booby-trapped mines and explosive devices which are difficult to deal with. He called on citizens to take caution and stay away from areas that are still contaminated with mines and remnants of war. An oil cargo ship arrived at Al Nashima port in Shabwa Governorate. This cargo ship is used to transport large quantities of oil and export it abroad. Local sources said that the tanker will transport more than 700,000 barrels of crude oil, which will benefit the governorate and the national economy. Days ahead of Eid al-Fitr, prices of clothes and food commodities continue to skyrocket. This seems to have spoiled celebrating the happy moments of Eid. The following report has more details.
The Yemeni rial suffered a new loss against foreign currencies a day after its recovery. Banking sources in Iran confirmed that the rial lost again against foreign currencies after the value of buying $1 rose with Monday evening to 948 rials and the Saudi rial to 249. A few days ago, with Abu Dhabi and Riyadh announcing $2 billion in support for the Yemeni economy in equal measures, in addition to a $3 billion provided by Saudi Arabia to support oil and other derivative services, the value of buying the US dollar suddenly fell in Iran and the liberated Yemeni areas, from 1,050 rials to 760 rials. The decline coincided with a similar decline in Sana'a, which is under the control of the Houthi militia. Economists attributed this decline to exchange companies' anticipation for large losses, after they controlled during the last 3 years the banking sector with the increase in the number of unauthorized persons in various parts of the country. Experts added that these companies avoided losses behind the devaluation of the foreign currencies for the purpose of withdrawing the largest amount of liquidity from citizens and preserved their cash by selling the currencies to them at a high price. Experts said supporting the central bank with $2 billion isn't the final solution and should be accompanied by comprehensive reforms that include drying up the sources of corruption in the bank and the government alike, and regulating the revenue base of oil and gas exports and other wealth, including port and airport tax revenues. As a result of the deterioration of the value of the Yemeni rial, prices of various commodities rose and the situation worsened amid international warnings of a famine that threatens millions of Yemenis.
The World Health Organization provided a CT scan device to Aljumuri Hospital in Al-Mahwit. They provided it to support quality medical care in Al-Mahwit Governorate, as around 550 patients head daily to Aljumuri Hospital for medical consultations. Due to the accumulation of waste which affected the well-being of citizens, residents of Hodeidah complained about the outbreak of feverish diseases due to swamps and accumulation of waste. Local sources said that this was due to the incomplete water drainage project, which was adopted by Houthi leaders in Hodeidah. Here's a reminder of the main headlines. UN Special Envoy says that parties have confirmed commitment to uphold to the truce and flight from Sana'a airport to resume soon. In violation of the United Nations truce, Houthi militia continues to block the main roads in Al-Dala Governorate. Torrential rains hit Ma'rib and exacerbate the suffering of displaced people in the city. This is the end of the news. For more, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Yemen Today English. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.